Benjamin Percy and Federico Vincentini hunt for Moira MacTaggert as the former mutant goes on the run, dodging Mystique, the CIA, and even her own health to uncover conspiracies surrounding her. Benjamin Percy surprises us here with a Wolverine book that isn't actually about Wolverine, at least for this first issue, and is actually a sequel to Jonathan Hickman's Inferno series, picking up immediately after that series ended and following Moira's story through the Gateway, and now that she is a human, giving her some very human problems like cancer, or the fact that she's being hunted by the CIA, being that she has suddenly re-emerged on the grid after being thought dead for a number of years. While this really is a setup issue, I really dug what is being done with Moira here, thrusting her into a world she doesn't particularly know much about and wasn't part of, as well as turning her story into pretty much the Bourne identity. It's such an interesting swerve for the character, and I'm looking forward to it hopefully continuing through these 5 issues and maybe beyond that. Wolverine is obviously in the book, and while I am a little disappointed the issue isn't him as the main character, all is forgiven being that it's an Inferno sequel, as well as the really interesting way they're using Wolverine, which is he's hunting Moira, and not only that, he appears to be the villain of the story and is infected with Warlock's tech and seemingly from the future or from some unknown time, and we've still got a lot to know about these characters, being that this is just the first issue, the story is still developing, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what this Wolverine exactly is and how he factors into the story. Federico Vincentini paints Moira's run from trouble with some great fast-paced action and tension-filled set pieces, and much like how the script is influenced by the Bourne films and other spy films, the art doubles down on that with a really great hospital fight that was quite gritty and brutal, and I liked her employing stuff we see in those spy films, like cutting your hair and dyeing it and changing your face to look like someone else and that sort of stuff. It's really cool stuff. X Deaths of Wolverine issue 1 was a surprising sequel to one of the X-Men's best modern stories, continuing Moira MacTaggert's journey into a world that wants her dead and finishing up with a cool cliffhanger that raises a few more questions for the book to answer. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. X Deaths of Wolverine issue 1 catches up with Moira MacTaggert, who escapes Krakoa through one of the gateways as Mystique calls out to her, telling her prey to run. Moira finds herself dumped out in the Scotland Highlands, where she quickly flags down a passing farmer, beating up the sheep farmer and taking his truck. She knows she needs to buy herself some time, using the truck to ram the gateway, destroying it. She knows there are other gates and other ways, feeling Mystique is now hunting her as she heads to the Kinross estate, her old home, knowing that there is some poetry in the mutant sending her there, since her end is her beginning. She refuses to sit back and let the mutants take everything with a blade to her throat as she coughs, thinking she might have gotten herself a cold, but she finds she has coughed up blood, knowing this is something more. Moira knows that she never fears death, but maybe it's time for that to change, since what's growing inside her is a hot rage. Days later at the Green Lagoon, Black Tom Cassidy thinks there is something in his drink moving, but Blob reassures him there's nothing wrong. Tom knows that something is very wrong with the vegetation on the island, rushing out of the bar as he heads into the forests, feeling an earthquake and knowing that they have been there before thanks to Krakoa always moving and changing its environment. This time it's bigger, sensing an intruder in the island, but not one that came from above or below. Suddenly a giant egg bursts from the ground nearby as the next day Moira meets with Jane Foster in New York. Jane tells her the bad news, telling her that she has stage 4 cancer which has metastasized, something Jane thinks Moira already knows. Moira asks for her blood work, looking it over and knowing that Krakoa can fix her, wondering if Jane can get her any petals. Jane tells her there is a waiting list a mile long for the Krakoan medicine and the petals won't cure cancer. Moira knows that, but knows that it can slow it down and give her some time as she falls over. Jane knows that she has been where Moira has been and knows firsthand what she's going through. She tells Moira that she didn't give up and neither should she. Moira thinks that she can't as Jane asks why she is coming to her and not the mutants, learning that it's because they think they're dead and the ones that know that she's alive want her buried. She tells Jane to forget about it since she isn't a mutant anymore as the nurse knocks on the door, telling Jane is needed in the morgue for some type of emergency. Jane leaves as the nurse morphs into Mystique, telling her that she'll take care of Moira. Moira throws the bed at Mystique, asking whatever happened to kill no human. Raven is surprised she's already calling herself human, thinking the woman no longer thinks of herself as a mutant and it's like just some dirty shirt she can just take off and toss away. Moira reminds her that the perfect Krakoan society she is in exists because of her, and her lives and work built it all, and this is how the mutants are thanking her. She tosses a bunch of syringes at Mystique as the door is blown in by Valkyrie, who tells Moira to run. Moira climbs out the broken window as Mystique tries to shoot her, telling Valkyrie to stay out of this. Tom Mimo observes the egg as it hatches a being, whom Tom knows. The being is revealed to be Wolverine, who instantly kills Tom, quickly leaving the area. Elsewhere, thanks to Moira running through the streets of New York, the CIA X desk is alerted to her seemingly being alive. Ramirez, the agent in charge, doesn't know what's going on to prompt an off-the-grid mutant to show up now, but she orders an extraction team to be sent out for her. In Newark, New Jersey, Moira begins to notice all the cameras and smartphones around her. Knowing her face is a bullseye, she needs to hide again. She steals some hair dye, scissors and clothes, using the public restrooms to cut and dye her hair, changing her appearance as at her no place on Krakoa, Wolverine breaks in, getting some of her personal items and catching her scent. With new hair and clothes, Moira tries to blend in, but her paranoia tells her that Mystique is everyone and everywhere, and it starts to get the better of her. Soon she sees some black-suited men asking a woman who fits Moira's former description for her ID, causing her to figure out that they are CIA. She heads into a store called Epiphany, a tech store where she pretends to look around, watching a hologram try and sell the memory drives that records everything you say and do and preserves it on one's cloud storage. The CIA agents soon find her, but Moira attacks them, taking one of their guns and wounding them as she escapes into the car park, taking a person's motorcycle. Moira knows that the CIA want her in a cell, the mutants want her in a grave, and there is a cancer inside her eating its way through her, so her chances aren't great. But if there is one thing she has learned, it's that dying doesn't agree with her. Back at the cradle, Xavier and Jean continue to hold Wolverine's mind as he travels through time, as Jean senses something, knowing that that's impossible as she knows Wolverine is there and now on the island, trying to contact the Logan she senses and understand what is happening. The Warlock tech-covered Wolverine who hatched from the egg, however, says that he is no one and never was.